Today I've got two trucks behind me and I've got a question for you that I need answered. Why are more people not getting into the CDL trucks? I've got a 33K truck here and a 26K truck. Just to make sure we understand it correctly, that's 33,000 GVW or gross vehicle weight rating and a 26 GVW truck here. So why are more people not getting into the CDL truck? A lot of you guys get into this hauling trash and you say, well man, I can jump in this truck and go to work. I don't need a commercial driver's license. I can put anybody in it. But I really want to address the fact that is that world as scary as what you think? So I think of the many conversations that I have with my customers and the things that they've told me, the feedback I've got from them. And here's 4 things that I think about that they have shared with me and I'm going to share with you and see what we can learn from them. So the first one that I often hear is it puts me in the CDL world, commercial driver's license. Big, scary realm that I don't know anything about. The second thing that I often hear is the cost is higher. The cost of the truck is higher. Everything's more expensive. The third thing is insurance. Ooh, that's a scary one. Insurance sky high. CDL world, insurance gotta be high. And then the last one that I hear the most, this is by far the most popular thing that I hear. I can't find a driver. Can't find a driver with a CDL. I can throw anybody in this truck over here and let them haul trash, but to find a driver is tough. So guys, I want to look at those 4 things today with you, break them down. I'll share with you my feedback on how I feel about it. Again, it's my opinion, but I do have some experience in this, and let's see if it's as big and scary as what you really think, because at the end of this video, please stay around to the end, I'm going to break it down of what you can actually do with the 33,000 pound truck. We're going to break it down of why that truck can do more than this one. So let's talk about the CDL world. Is that as big and scary as you really believe it is? So for me, it's not, because I've been in it practically my entire life. I got my CDL license at 19. And I tell you what, that was exciting. I was so delighted when I finally obtained my CDL and I could drive the big trucks. And that's what I really want to convey to you. Have you really looked at it to see how big of a deal this is? Because I'll tell you, I hear it a lot from customers like, oh, I don't want to get into that. That's a big, scary world, and there's a lot of things that come with it. What are some of the things that you might run into? So depending how far you go from your home base, you know, if you go out of state, you know, you might need a medical card. Medical card isn't that hard to get. You can usually go to your local doctor's office and it's not very expensive. And if you're healthy, you can easily get a medical card. The other thing is you often need to be part of a drug program and you'll get randomly tested for drugs. You'll get a letter in the mail saying, hey, you got to show up somewhere, get a drug test. Again, not a big deal. So to me, I don't think the CDL world's that scary. The second thing is the cost of these trucks. Let's really get into that. I'll tell you right now, there is almost no cost difference between these 2 trucks, with one being bigger than the other. The cost difference is when you get a bigger engine, bigger hoist, things like that. So often if a guy wants to go with a 33K truck, he will want a bigger hoist, a hoist that hauls longer cans and lifts more weight capacity. And then of course he wants a bigger engine. That's where your costs come in. So these 2 trucks are actually built exactly the same. They have the same engine, same transmission, same hoist, same container length. No cost difference between those 2 trucks. In fact, the Mack is less because it's a Mack, and Peterbilt is more because it's a Peterbilt. You always pay more for a Peterbilt. So your cost will come in if you want to go with a bigger hoist, you want to haul 18-foot cans, you want to do 22,000 pounds lifting capacity, and then I do recommend, you know, the bigger engine like the L9 Cummins, the PX9 engine, which is 360 horse now. You can get that. So of course you will have some more expenses, but it's actually not that much more. Not as much as what you think. To make those upgrades, it's really not that much. All right, so the third thing that we mentioned was insurance. And let me be very clear. I'm not an insurance man. I don't know much about it. So I don't know if the insurance is going to be a lot higher on a CDL truck, but I can tell you my experience when I owned the towing company. So I had little trucks and I had big trucks. I had an umbrella policy over all my tow trucks, and I had the big ones and the little ones. So I never knew if there was a big difference between the non-CDL and the CDL. So my thing to you is, please go find out, is insurance as high as what you might think? But I will tell you where insurance goes sky high is if you're a new startup, and if you've got speeding tickets or some other bad things on your record, on your driving record, that's where your insurance will go up. There is guys in the insurance industry that are really dedicated to the trash haulers. We had done a video with Toby Stubbs here some time ago, and he shared a lot of good information. And I know there's other companies out there that really understand the trash haulers. So my advice is to you, shop around. Don't take the first quote that you get. Shop these guys and see who will give you the best quote. And I'm going to tell you, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that the insurance is not as high as what you actually think on a CDL truck. Let's go to the fourth thing, and that's I can't find drivers. I want to really spend a minute talking about that. I think that's a legitimate question to ask, and I hear it from a lot of people. Now, we all know that just about any industry that you're in, it's hard to find good help, right? I think we can all agree on that. It is difficult to find good help. But let me tell you, there's good people out there looking for good jobs, looking for good companies to work for. So if you're a good company and you run nice equipment, I believe that you can find good drivers. Can you find CDL drivers? Good question. Remember I mentioned about how proud I was to get my CDL? That was a big moment in my life. I value that CDL license. I have 4 boys at home, and I have told every one of them when they turn 18, they're going to get their CDL. I don't care if you never use it a day in your life. That's my gift to you. When you turn 18, you got to get your CDL. So my oldest son just turned 18 a few months ago, and I said, all right, you're going to go get your CDL. The rules have changed a lot when I got mine. So I got mine 26 years ago, and it was pretty easy to get it. You went in, you got your permit. I think there were some written tests. You drove for a while with somebody else, and then you went and you took your road tests, and I don't remember it being difficult. Now, the rules have changed a lot, and there is a misconception out there that I want to break down. There's some myths out there on getting your CDL. I hear from a lot of people that, oh, it's so difficult. It's extremely hard to get your CDL. I mean, you got to go to school for 8 weeks. It costs $10,000. These are some things that I've heard, and I'm going to tell you, it's not all true. There's some places like that. When they first rolled out those new rules on how to get your CDL, yes, there was limited options of where you could go to get the training that you needed. Now there's a lot more options, and I've got guys that will drive out of state to get their CDL because there's a place that offers a classroom experience that has lowered the price. I'll tell you how we did it with my son. He found a place an hour and a half from our house, called the guy up, and he goes, absolutely. He said, in fact, I can come to your place and do it right there with you. And he said, you know, it's usually 2 days, but he said, if you catch on quickly, he said, we can maybe do it all in 1 day. And he literally came out to our house, and in 1 day, he spent the entire day with my son, and they went through everything. I had a dump truck and a trailer there. They went out, set up cones, practiced, did their whole thing, and they completed the whole training in 1 day. And then he simply had to go take a road test, I think 2 days later, and boom, he passed, and it was $3,000. So it's possible to get your CDL without spending a lot of time and a lot of money. So to you business owners out there, I want to ask you the question, would it be worth it for you to help your drivers get their CDL? And I know you run a big risk if you do that. You're going to say, well, I'll help them get their CDL, I'll pay for it, and then they're going to quit and go somewhere else. That's true. That could happen. Stop thinking about worst case scenario all the time. Let's think about the positives. So again, I go back to my towing experience. I was thinking about this in preparation for this video, and most of the drivers that I hired did not come with their CDL. And, you know, I sent them to class. We trained them. We put them in the truck with another driver, and they drove. They took their tests. They passed. Most of my drivers were like that. Did they all stay around? No, they didn't. I'm not going to tell you it was a 100% success rate, but I will tell you some of the best drivers that I had were the guys that came that had zero experience. And I said, look, I'll help you get your CDL. We'll put the time and energy into it. We'll teach and train you, and I'll pay for it. But then you run my tow truck. So there was loyalty there. They was like, hey, if you help me, I'll stick around. That was a really good experience for me. I'm sharing that with you and that's a legit question that I want to ask you. Is it worth for you as a business owner to help your drivers get their CDL and put them into a bigger truck? I'm going to tell you that yes, it is. Because if you treat them right and if you take care of them, they'll probably stick around for a long time. All right, guys, now I'm going to share with you some customer feedback, some customer questions, and some real life experiences that we've had here in the last year, last 6 months, last couple days, about the differences between these two trucks. I'm going to share them with you, and hopefully you can learn something from it. Probably one of the questions I get asked the most when customers are trying to decide what size truck they should run is, can I haul a 30-yard dumpster on an under CDL truck? And the answer is yes, you can. But I always tell them I don't recommend it. Now, I've got a handful of customers that I know are under CDL. They're running a 30-yard 16-foot container. Why don't I like that? Here's why. That's a very tall container. That's a very tall container. You're going to max out what you can put in that so quickly if you're trying to stay under CDL. You can't put a lot of debris in a 30-yard container, so you're very limited. So if you've got a customer that has a lot of lightweight material that doesn't add up to a lot of weight, then yes, you can. I just don't think it's a great idea because of how that dumpster is with the tall sidewalls and how much you can haul. The other thing that we get asked a lot is a customer says, man, I'm running all under CDL. I'm ready to go to the big truck. And usually when they think about that, they're going to an 80,000 or an 86,000 GVW truck, tri-axle, big, heavy truck with a 50,000 pound hoist. They think they're ready to go to that. And I literally just had this happen a couple weeks ago. Customer started a brand new dumpster business, got an under CDL truck. It was actually identical to this Peterbilt. And man, he's rocking and rolling. Busy as can be, adding more dumpsters, and he is really growing. And he called me up one day and he goes, Marlon, I'm ready to get into the big truck. I want to get a tri-axle. So he ordered a Kenworth tri-axle, beautiful truck. He got the truck. I called him up a few weeks later and said, how's it going? How do you like your truck? And he said, I'll be honest, he said, this big truck scares me. He said, I did not realize how big of a deal this big truck was going to be. He said, I'll tell you right now, my money maker is in this size truck, the single axle. He said, I can get into tight alleys. I can get into tough spots. He said, that's my money maker, is a smaller truck. And I thought, well, that was interesting feedback for me, because you guys know that if you listen to these videos, I always say bigger is better. And is bigger always better? Maybe you're not ready for the biggest truck. Maybe you need to step it up in sizes. Maybe you should consider the 33,000 pound truck before you go to that big tri-axle. Because to be honest, you take a truck that's 33 GVW, I believe that you can haul 30-yard containers on there, especially if you pair that with the SL222. That'll do 18-foot containers, and you can haul a 30-yard on there, no problem. And you have the ability to put more weight in that dumpster. So that's a way to step up from the under CDL to the next size without spending a ton of money, and it's manageable. And you can still get into tight places. The wheelbase is not much longer on that truck if you go to the bigger hoist than this size truck. The other nice thing is federal excise tax. You guys know how much I hate that. On any new truck that's over 33 GVW, you get hit with a 12% FET, federal excise tax. So remember, here's a way to step up to be able to haul more weight and not pay that ridiculous 12%. So even on a truck like this, what you can do is 6 months after the truck is in service, you could add a lift axle and up your GVW and not pay the FET. If you put the lift axle in when you build the truck, you have to pay FET on the entire package. So I know that there's guys doing that. They buy a single axle, they leave room for a lift axle, and 6 months later they'll put the lift axle in. So guys, think about it for your business. Maybe it's better to start slower and break it up before going to the really big truck. Here's another situation I had just the other day. A guy called me. He bought a Freightliner M2, stayed under CDL. He called me and he said, man, dumpsters are just flying out the door. He said, I'm ordering more dumpsters. My business is growing. I think I'm ready to move up into a big truck. But he said, I don't want to spend that kind of money. I mean, that's with the FET, that's $300,000. So he said, I think I'm going to buy a used tandem or triaxle truck. And I said, do you really want to do that? I said, I look at how you have grown your business, and he also had a landscaping business. And I said, you've told me you buy everything new. You buy all your excavating equipment is new. Your dumpsters were all new. Your first hook lift truck was new. Are you sure that you need the big truck? And he goes, I want to haul 30-yard containers. I said, are you going to haul 40s? He says, no. He said, I have a contractor that needs 30-yard containers. And I said, how about a 33 GVW truck? Pair it with the SL222, 18-foot container. And we talked for quite a while, and he goes, that's exactly what I want. He said, I can manage that. That truck is still reasonable. Yes, it puts me in a CDL driver. He said, we can get our CDL license. That's not a problem. I stay away from the FET, and I'm not in that big truck. And he said, you know what, in a year, I'll probably be ready for the big truck to haul the 40 yards. So that made a lot of sense to me. I thought he's very wise in taking those steps in doing that. So here's, I think, what's happening. And this really hit home with me the other day when I took in a trade-in. I believe the guys that are staying under CDL are probably overloading their trucks on a regular basis. They're maxing them out, overloading, hauling too heavy loads. And here's why I think that. So I took a truck in on trade, and I'll be honest, I was really disappointed when I got the truck in. It was not at all what I thought. It was very obvious that the customer had maxed this truck out beyond its capability every day. It was an under CDL truck. You could literally see, so it was air ride, but you could see where the suspension was bottoming out on the springs, and it had worn grooves into that heavy metal bracket where the U-bolts clamped that top plate on. I'd never seen the likes. That told me that he was overloading it so heavy that he was bottoming out, and that the suspension was just wore out. The truck only had 200,000 miles on it. I've seen trucks with 500,000 miles on that weren't near that worn, but the suspension, the bushings were gone. Air ride suspension was sitting in there crooked. Airbags, the top plate was bent. This guy very obviously maxed his truck out every day to cause that kind of damage. So that's what's happening, I believe, on some of these under CDL trucks is they want to haul the big heavy loads. The hoist will often pick it up, but is the truck really built for it? So in the 33K, the biggest difference in that truck is the way it's built with the frame rails and the suspension. There's a heavier suspension, heavier axle rating in the front and the back. And that's what you need when you're hauling these heavy loads. That's a good reason to go up to the 33K truck, because you can handle those heavy loads. The truck is built for it, and you won't have near as many issues, and you won't be overweight near as quick as what you are with this truck. Another thing I see a lot of people do, and I think this is exactly the right thing to do, is to get a 33,000 pound truck and then derate it if you want to stay under that CDL. That way you've got the heavier suspension, you got the heavier springs, the heavier frame, but it's still under CDL. So if you're stuck on staying with the under CDL, I would tell you to try to get a truck that's derated. So what does it mean to derate a truck? So some manufacturers, you can get a factory derate. It'll say right on the title, 26,000, even though it's a 33. Other manufacturers are a little bit different. So what you can usually do is you can take a 33,000 GVW truck and you can do a derate on the door sticker. As a truck body upfitter here, we put the finished body sticker on the door jamb. We put in the axle ratings, tire sizes, all that good stuff, and then we put what GVW that truck is rated for. So that's something that we can do, and that's what your DOT officer, police officer is going to look at if he pulls you over. He's not going to look at your title because you're going to have your title with you. He's going to look at that door sticker. Now, can you derate a truck after it's built? Like take a used Freightliner M2, 2014, 33 GVW. Can you derate that truck that many years later? No, I don't know any way around it. We get asked that every time we have a 33 GVW truck that's used. Can you derate it? And to my knowledge, I don't know of a way that you can do it. Can you up the GVW of a truck without changing anything? Can you just change the door sticker? No, you can't do that. No, I feel very confident saying you cannot up the GVW of a truck. The way you can up the GVW is if you add lift axles. I suppose if you went in and you got the springs changed, there might be a very complicated way that you could do that. I don't know anything about that, but I'm going to tell you there's no simple way to up the GVW of a truck. So hopefully that answers some of the questions we have when we talk about derating, 33, derated 26, Hopefully that answers some questions, but if you got any more, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. All right, guys, here's the most exciting part about this entire video, and here's why I believe you should run a 33,000-pound GVW truck. So let's break down the numbers. This is where I get excited. Let's break down the numbers of what this truck can do versus this truck. All right, both of these trucks roughly weigh the exact same weight. And I can't explain that. Both of them are built with the same equipment, but it's just the differences in the manufacture of why they're so close to same in weight, even though this one has heavier axle ratings. 15,000 pounds is the empty weight, give or take a little bit between the two of them. Let's just go with 15,000 pounds. So 33,000 pound GVW truck, this truck can haul 18,000 pounds. Yes, you have to include your dumpster and your trash in there. 18,000 pounds is what this truck can legally haul. Let's go over to the Peterbilt. Staying under CDL, 26,000 GVW truck, and it weighs 15,000 pounds. That leaves you with 11,000 pounds. That's what this truck can haul. 7,000 pounds different in the hauling capacity between these trucks. Is 7,000 pounds for every single load worth it to you to spend a little bit more money, hire a CDL driver, possibly have higher insurance, and have to look harder for a driver? Is that worth it to you to be able to haul 7,000 pounds more on every single load? And yes, I could have figured in the dumpster because I know your dumpster weighs something, but the dumpster weight is going to be a little bit more on this truck if you go with bigger ones. But I decided not to even get into that because dumpsters weigh different depending which ones you go with. But my question is it worth it to you? I know to me it would be. I would go with this truck. If I was looking to move up, I would go with a 33. So guys, I hope that information helped you. It was fun for me to break it down to you. I hope it can help some customers that are going to be coming to buy a truck, help them figure out what size do I need. But I really want you to look at it. Is it as hard as you think? And I'm going to tell you, no, it's not as hard as you think to get in the CDL world. I'm convinced of that. I know I've been in a long time, but I'm telling you, get out there, be serious about it, do the bigger stuff, hire the better drivers, improve your businesses, because look at the competition around you. What are they doing? Look at the guys around you. Are they moving into the bigger truck? If they are, you should be too. If they're not, you still should be getting into the bigger truck. So again, guys, I don't care which truck you buy. I just want to educate you and help you make the best decision as you grow your business. So there you have it. I'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments below the questions that you have or why you think it's better to stay with this truck. And maybe this will help you move into the 33,000 GVW truck. So guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, keep it quality.